During centuries, this story has been told as a miracle, as proof of the power of a God who freed his people. But almost no one told the other side, because while one people was being freed, another was being destroyed. Ordinary men, women, children, people who did not write history, but lived every second of it in their own flesh. I woke up like any other day in Egypt, believing nothing could shake our land. The sun rose, gilding the waters of the Nile, our living God, source of life and wealth. I walked to the riverbank to fetch water, as I had done since childhood. But before I even saw it, something hit me. The smell. It was metallic, dense, wrong. My heart raced. I quickened my steps, and then I saw it. The Nile was no longer blue, nor green. It was red, a vivid red, deep, almost pulsating. For a moment I thought it was a reflection, a trick of the light, but when I plunged my hand into it, the liquid was thick, warm, fresh blood. My stomach turned. It was not an illusion. It was real. The Nile was bleeding. People began to gather along the banks. Women cried, men shouted. Priests called upon their gods, but nothing changed. The river, once our strength, was now a wounded body bleeding before our eyes. Fish began to float. Thousands, perhaps millions. White eyes, swollen bodies, dead. The stench of decay filled the air. In a matter of hours, what was once life became death. The water we drank, that fed our crops, that sustained our families, had become poison. The air burned from within. That's when I remembered. I still had water at home, a full jar stored since the day before. For a moment I felt relief. I ran. I crossed the streets, ignoring the screams, the smell, the chaos. When I entered, I went straight to the corner where I had left the jar. My hands were shaking. I still had hope. But when I looked, the liquid was no longer water. It was red, thick, still as if alive. What was in the river was now inside my home. And in that moment I understood there was nowhere to run. That day, all of Egypt realized something had risen against us. We were not facing a phenomenon. We were facing a God we did not know. And he was not asking for anything. He was demanding. The days passed, but the river remained red. 7 full days. 7 days breathing death. There was no clean water, none. Men dug into the earth in desperation, trying to find anything drinkable. In vain, children cried from thirst. My son cried until he had no more tears. His lips were dry, cracked. Then he looked at my wife and whispered, "Mother, I am thirsty." She looked at me, and I said nothing. I could do nothing. They said some caravans still brought water from afar, but it was expensive, too expensive. That night my wife left. She didn't say where. Hours later, and she returned. She carried a little water. She had paid almost everything we owned in dates, flour, even an earring that once belonged to her mother. What had once been worth gold was now dust. Only water was sacred. Only water had value. But even what little we got had to be divided into clay cups. I moistened the boy's lips with a damp cloth, and still, it was not enough. Without water, without fish, without life, hunger came. Men fought over handfuls of food. Mothers tried to trade everything they had for a little water, and no one had anything left to give. That's when the whispers began. Moses, the man who claimed to speak for a single God. They said the Pharaoh had been warned, but he did not listen. And now we were all paying. The priests tried to replicate the act, and they did, or so they said. But what good was it? To turn more water into blood? What we needed was water. And in that moment it became clear we were losing without even fighting. The nights were silent, too silent, broken only by moans. And then, for the first time, I asked myself the question no one wanted to speak aloud. Where are our gods? Why don't they answer? They said the Hebrews still had water, that their jars were full, and that hurt more than thirst. I looked at the Nile and saw no life anymore, only a red mirror reflecting the wrath of a God we did not know. It was like drinking from the memory of judgment, and in that moment one certainty took hold of me. If that was only the beginning, then what was to come was not survival. It was judgment.